Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Raise the Vibe with Liz. I'm your host, Liz Peterson, and today I'm going to be interviewing Linda McCollum Delong. But before we get into Linda's interview, if you haven't gotten your copy of Living an Intuitive Life, it is available on Amazon, and I have all my books on iBooks now. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Linda, I got introduced to Linda through AJ, and AJ Parr and I did a pod swap. If you haven't checked those interviews out, I highly recommend it. It was super fun to talk to AJ. But Linda has a bachelor in ESE, endorsement in pre-K ESE, master's in education, minor in non-Western religion and sociology, working toward doctoral studies in ESE administration, and a degree in graphic design, doing art, multiple mediums, photography, poetry, writing children's books, and wrote her first book, October 2025, Walking Between Two Worlds, The Secret Teachings of Tahuti and the Light, which is available on Amazon. Linda, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure to have you. So grateful to AJ for making the connection. I loved your book. Thank you for sending that along to me. I always start my podcast with what led you to be doing what you're doing today. So why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what led you to be sharing this work?
It's a lifelong journey. I started without knowing it in my crib. And before I had language, I had a blue light just appear in my crib. And for years, people thought it was my imaginary friend. And got a lot of doctors, a lot of pills, thinking I was crazy. But in my 40s, even though I was seeing, thinking, telling people messages, very few really believed what I told them until I was in my 40s when I actually was on watching a podcast of, about Tahuti. I was watching the History Channel, and that's how it all started. But the journey really started in 1963 when I was 14 and 7 beings came into my room, and they were in opalescent gowns, and my room just lit up. And somehow I knew I was supposed to go with them. And I traveled through over my house, over my community, eventually ended up through the disk and planets, which for some reason didn't make me afraid. And I ended up in some kind of structure. It was round, and I met the light for the first time. And he said that I was supposed to share things and he would be giving me lessons from then on. So for the next 40, 50 years up until now, I kept getting lessons. But until I actually said to him, you want me to talk, you better tell me something because I'm getting pretty old, unless you keep me around for a long time. And he just said, speak. And from then, other podcasters reached out to me, and that was in 23. And then last year, one reached out to write a book, and that's how we wrote the book. So now it just seems like I'm getting messages all the time, which sometimes it's too much. I'm still trying to filter out what they are, but I'm able to travel home, talk with the light, help people reach out to people they've lost in their life, bring messages about this life. And I've talked to all 7 continents. And it's really been exciting. And most of us been validating, not to know that what I was seeing was real. It wasn't my imagination. And best of all, I wasn't crazy. So
Yeah, so often we can be told as children it's just our imagination, or they take us to the psychologist or therapist or whatever it is because they don't understand, our parents don't understand what we're experiencing. What was that like for you to be having these experiences? And you talk about your mother, your father, it sounded like he accepted it, but your mother really was the one that really didn't believe that you could be seeing these things.
I think that most of all, made me doubt myself. And so I kept to myself about it. And my dad was just a really easy flowing person. Um, he ended up being grandfathered into an engineering job because he just learned how to do it. And mom, she was very artistic and she loved history, but to go off the realm and say you're seeing things and stuff. I mean, I would tell her about Indians I saw. I would sense smells and things. And most of the time she was just get me a doctor, especially after the seven beings I told her about them. And I got me a new shrink then. But it's, you know, the last time I took a psychology test, which would have been 10 or 15 years, maybe 20 years ago, and they have a question, do you hear voices? And I always told them no. That when I said, yes, would you like to meet them? I was surprisingly, he was into meditation and stuff, and he just laughed. You're the first person that submitted it. So, so that's how life has always been. It's like I didn't like the same things that most of my friends liked, and it wasn't trying to be standoffish. I didn't understand some of the things they were into, even music. I always like classical, and not too many teenagers like classical. So I just had to learn how to adapt with everybody, and it's been a hurdle. Like in my book, it just seems like everything was a hurdle until even my family. I talk about soul circles, if we want to get into that. And then my past lives, my daughter's past lives. So I guess just taking everything by day and just getting back up. I mean, that's what you have to do and cipher out what's good and what isn't good.
I like that. Good advice. So true, especially these days. It's funny. I was watching a really great presentation on out of body experiences that a guest on IANS had, and she works for University of Virginia, I believe, and is part of one of their studies programs. And she highlighted where she went back to those psychiatric evaluations, and like seven of the slides point out both near death experiences, out of body experiences, and psychic communication. And I was really cool that she included that in the talk. I want to go back to the beginning, because when you were a baby in your crib, I believe you said around 3 years old, in your book, a light being started communicating with you. Can you share that?
Actually, it started in my crib before language. But at 3, what you're talking about, I was talking to light that nobody else could see. And my babysitter asked me who I was talking to. And I said, I didn't know. So I asked, and that's when he told me he was Tahuti. And of course, she said, oh, nice, you've got an imaginary friend. And he's just popped in and out of my life until recently, probably the last 3 or 4 years, especially after the podcast. He would come with messages, but it's confusing whether it's sometimes if it's the light talking to me or if it's Tahuti, because in my book, I talk about a bubble I go into. And my bubble gets very crowded because I have 5 guides, I have Archangel Michael, and I have my council, and then I have, if I want the light to come, I call for him to come, or I go home and talk to him. So that's how it all evolved. That's how I protect myself. I conceal the bubble. And that's how I do meditations. And I'm guessing you would call them out of body. To me, it's just very, like when Tahuti was talking to me, until recently, it was really confusing because I didn't know who he was until, well, now it's been 30 years. I finally found out who he was. But the same person that asked me who I was talking to, my babysitter, became my kids' godmother. and she had lost her husband, and she was visiting me in Florida. And on TV came the History Channel talking about Tahuti. And I mean, I'm yelling at him, come quick, come quick, you got to see he's real. And I mean, so until then, there wasn't really any proof. I hadn't researched because I didn't know he existed, especially under Tahuti's name. You can find him under the other names, but not that. So it has been a journey. And his stone, ironically, is lapis. And well, this is, but this is lapis. It actually changes colors. The light being blue probably was his way of communicating who he was. But I just recently learned about his stone even. This, at my age, I'm still learning, and so as far as talking to him in his crib, the first time I saw him, it was like he just opened up the ceiling and pulled back like a curtain, and there was home. But at that time, I didn't know it was home until I started telling my parents I wanted to go home. And they kept telling me, you are home. I'm like, no, the other home. And eventually I gave up trying to tell them about it. But so that's how I communicated, was through the blue light. But I never put the two together for a long time. So every day is no learning experience. I mean, with my family, and it's a very busy household. And
And
who I dedicated my book to, my granddaughter, she helped me get it together with AJ, but she's also psychic. So sometimes I have a mentor in her. She comes and sits with me about it.
I love that. For those who don't know, Tahuti is Thoth and also has been referred to as Hermes later
Yes.
on in Greek. What sort of messages, because it really sounds like he's opening up the veil between our dimension and his to be able to show you home. And it sounds like you're astral traveling home, the stories that you share and in your book. What are some of the things that he has shared with you about yourself over these years?
I think the biggest thing is that I've had a hard time making people understand that we are one. And when I adopted my children, two of my children, the first thing my mother said, what color are they? I don't see color. It's not that I don't see it, but I mean, that's not what I see first. And if someone's on the street and and they need a meal, maybe they just need a smile, you know, that's what I try to incorporate in to my kids. We walk the beach. If there's trash on the beach, you just don't walk over it. You try to pick it up. Someone falls on the beach and they need help. You go over and help them up. And I think that's what Tahuti has taught me all through my life without me realizing it. I think he's also taught me recently that our reincarnations, we choose them, but we're told we don't remember. And I don't believe that. I think that buried in our souls, or whatever you want to call it, your DNA, whatever phrase or term you want to use, it's hidden there. And if you choose to let it come through, the lessons you're taught, there's common factors. And in my book, I deal with that. Different lives. I mean, one third is teaching through my reincarnation. One is helping, having children, being a warrior, voicing my opinion. And I've been both male and female. So I think he's taught me being one is one with the people you're with. And you don't have to have all the money in the world to help somebody. You can help somebody cross over a pebble if they're in a wheelchair or something, you can go to a fast food place and say, hey, if you're hungry and someone's on the side, don't let them in your car, maybe, but you can roll your window down and say, here, if you're hungry, here's some food. Just simple things like that. So I think he's taught me to look at individuals and try to see if there are needs. And also an important thing is to accept help when you need help. And that's sometimes my husband doesn't quite get that. But I'm not afraid to ask somebody if I need help. My granddaughter, who I mentioned before, said, "You can't go anyplace without meeting somebody and talking about people." And that's true. I mean, complete strangers all of a sudden ask me something about a relative or something that passed, and how that comes about, I don't know. But we take time and set. And sometimes I've even I'm not advising this, but I have met people in a restaurant that needed a ride someplace. I just go in the bathroom and say, "Hey, I'm wearing this today, but I'm taking somebody someplace," and drop them off. And one time they actually disappeared. I don't know if it was my imagination, but I dropped him off where he wanted to go. I went to work at the time and looked back, and he was gone. So either he was fast, or I don't know who he was, but he was gone. So I do some things that, you know, I'm not advising other people to do. You have to use your own sense, but I do get in a lot of predicaments sometimes.
It sounds like you're heavily
So I think,
guided.
uh, as far as I can tell, I mean, I've tripped and fallen, but you have to get back up. And something that I think is important to tell people in some of my book, I don't know if it happens to everybody, but when you're given gifts or you're given knowledge, you often doubt yourself, and then depression sets in. And in my case, it did. I mean, not bad, but you have to keep looking for the answers. As long as you get back up, you never fail. It's when you don't get back up. And I think people need to know that sometimes depression comes because people doubt themselves and the people around you doubt you. So sift through the information, but just keep going.
That's lovely advice.
I hope that
You
answers what you're.
mentioned, yeah, perfectly. You mentioned that he opened up the ceiling and showed you home. What does home look like?
Well, again, in my book, I think I touched on a little bit, but I'm an artist and I do a lot of art. I like playing with art, and you can't describe the colors at home. And it's not just the intense colors; they're unique, but they're like talking to you. The flowers talk to you through a vibration and music. Everything's alive there. A lot of people say they see people, they see buildings. I've never seen anything except the library. Uh, I haven't seen buildings. I only see people when I ask them to come. If somebody, I do a reading and someone says, they want to talk to Sally Jones, okay? They give me first name and their birthday and their question. And spirits usually come through orbs, but then they take form and they'll give me ways to describe themselves to the person that's asking, and they'll give me some kind of clue from the past. And um, so many different clues, like, oh, one person, liked purple. And so they showed me purple flowers. And the spirit did. When I told the person this, I said, "Does purple flowers mean anything to you?" And she just gasped. She said, "That was her casket spray." So they'll give me some little hint of validation to tell the person. But until they come, they're just orbs. And when they're ready to leave, they just basically say they're leaving and they leave. I mean, it's so simplistic, but home, it's just when I go home to the light, he always says, "Welcome home, child." And it's not like he's got our type of body, but he's actually just a light. He does have a shape. He does when he chuckles, it's like a flame. He just kind of moves back and forth. So he does communicate telepathically, but he has emotions, and whether it's the Akashic record, I don't know. But one time I had a question, a person asked me, she was really upset. She thought she had sinned for her church. And I said, "I don't think so," but she wasn't convinced. So I went home and he just opened up this huge book. And he went, "There she is." Um, she seemed very validated, that she was okay with what she was doing, even though her religion was telling her that she had sinned. And that's one of the main points of a lot of people. They Box religion is a good guideline for some people, but like everything, keep using the word sip, they have to look at their own self because the light is not judging you the way that we're taught. The fear that we're instilled with, it's a man's rule. It's not God's. It's not the light. The light may give you a lesson in life, but it's not to make you stumble, it's to make you grow. And I think that's what Tahuti, whether I consider him an ascended master, and I think that that was why he came to me. I mean, my household wasn't religious, but yeah, mom had a religious background. My grandmother was always correcting me about religion. But at 3 in my book, I came home from Bible school or something, and I just put my hands on the hip. I said, I'm not going back. And mom asked me why. I said, that guy said, I'm going to go to hell. He's going to burn me up. And my God wouldn't do that. I think that's what people say. I think we are judged in the life review, but we're judging ourselves. And these are our lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we're too tough on ourselves. So,
Yeah. You talk that there's the library at home. What is that library like? Is it the Akashic records that everybody talks about?
I'm not sure because I've been to a couple libraries. The one I go to most is like the first layers, books you would see in a library. They're pretty similar. The next one, and the first one is scrolls, then a books. And the third one is like a VHF case that you would put in, but it opens up. And when you open up the books, it's not just about Mary Jones or Jim Smith. It looks like it's about a whole civilization. So I don't really know if it's Akashic Library. But the one time he's opened the book a few times, and that's complete civilization too. So I don't know. The Library of Mente of Tahuti or Taught, um, that I haven't actually seen books, but I've seen the people studying there.
Mm.
And it's not how the Emerald Tablets describe it, and whether I got mixed up or he's saying it in a different way. But I see things totally different. People sitting in the chairs. Um, so, and yet the last chair is empty. And I think, even though he says there's somebody there, I think until we've reached full enlightenment or where we can understand, then that chair will be filled by somebody. And right now we don't seem to be progressing in the light sometimes. And
It
that
seems
chair
like
isn't
that
filled yet.
sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about it, but even though I don't think I see parameters, even I catch myself sometimes going, hey, that's not what it's like. You have to rethink things. And it's not that you can't judge, but lead by example, not by judging.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
Tahuti, when you told him, like, I want to go home, you have said this, and I believe several times you said this, and he said no because you had a contract. Tell us
right.
about like that contract, how it made you feel, and do we all have contracts? I feel like I sat at a large table and filled out my contract with a bunch of people before I came down here.
I actually don't remember the contract as much as Tahuti telling me telepathically when I first wanted to go home. He said, no, you wrote in your contract, you have things to do here. And then I had a serious illness before I moved to Florida. And in my household, my cousin, who's in the book, Alan, came. And it was like this TV show with three doors. And he showed me my past, my present, and the future. And he said, "You've completed your contract, but there's more to do."
Wow.
And whatever he showed me, that was prior to all this, the processing and things. Um, I decided to stay. And so I don't remember the contract, but I do think my whole family is part of that contract. I think we actually sat in a circle or whatever you do, and we sat in a soul circle. Because in my book, all of them have some of the same traits, health issues that they overcame, or they deal with, um, artistic, they can speak telepathically to each other. Two are very psychic, um, past lives. So I think we came together with our hurdles that we put down, and together we're hopefully making the world better because we're working as a team. And I've lost one daughter 3 times. They've revived her. Another
Wow.
daughter I've lost once, and they revived her. So we're here for a reason, and I think we came together. And 2 of my children are adopted, and yet the one predicted her own death at 16, and she was on your fatal car wreck, and I forgot about it. And she said, "Mom, don't you remember?" What? And it happened to be on a Friday the 13th even. And she had told me about seeing something. And a couple years prior, I don't remember exactly when, but it would be on her 16th birthday. And wasn't her birthday, but she had been to a friend's house. I wasn't supposed to take the car and took somebody home and got in a wreck.
Wow.
So, and my youngest granddaughter is telepathic. She didn't know it until I showed her what to do and started talking to animals. So, I mean, the biggest doubter is my husband. I think he forgot his contract, but but he's unless he's trying to make me keep working on mine, I'm not sure. But we definitely have different opinions. So,
That's cute.
but
At
after 58 years, I guess.
Yeah, wow, 58 years. That's a long marriage. Yeah. Married 58 years, mother of four, and three grandchildren. What a beautiful life. That's awesome. You talk about the beings in robes, which you mentioned earlier at 14, 1963. Tell me or tell us about these beings in the robes.
For years, when I would see them, when they came the first time, it was like somebody had just, I guess, like in a movie, the room just lit up, and these beings were there, and they weren't much taller than me as I can remember. So I'm guessing somewhere over, a little over 5 foot, maybe a little taller. And they were in like robes with a hood, and they're kind of shimmered. I guess it was opalescent, I guess. It's been a long time, remember? Almost 70 years or 60 years. And one touched my hand and we just lifted out of the room. I remember going through our window on a second-story farmhouse, seeing the lake I lived by, and just higher and higher and through a void, through planets. And then, like I said, we ended up in the room. And the room, as far as I can tell, there was only one piece of furniture. And I guess it was a viewing window because I really don't remember what was there, but the light told me to look and things were moving. So either it was a galaxy or future events that I didn't interpret then, but no matter what I was doing, sleeping, taking care of my kids, somehow when the light, I heard this cooing noise. Either the beings would come or the light would just be there. And we would just go, usually in a setting with nature or something. I don't remember what he taught me. And he kept saying, "You remember when the time's right." And like I said before, I'm sitting in my birdcage chair and said, hey, I'm getting pretty old. You have to keep me around a long time if I'm going to talk. And that's when everything just started spiraling. But the beings themselves, when when I was home one time, they all of a sudden appeared just as orbs. And they explained that big earthly beings have to have something tangent to see. And so that's why they wear the hoods or the robes. But when I understood who they were and who the light was, they basically said, it's not necessary, you understand. So that's when they quit you wearing the robes and just became orbs.
Wow,
So
that's cool. I heard Penny Kelly tells a story that beings in robes showed up for her too. And another person I've interviewed, I put out a request to Penny, but someone I interviewed, Althea Provost, and you've said this too, like aliens have appeared to her, and she talks about that in her book. And you mentioned also that alien beings have shown up to you.
yeah, one of my first guides was Ari. He appears to be a gray. Um, I wonder if they got me crazy pills, huh? But
That's who Althea sees
I'm
too.
guessing, yeah. I mean, we appeared to be like in a spaceship, and all I remember is a window and the galaxies and things. But he just basically pointed to an object, and that was his home. And we came back. But of course, Atlanteans are considered to be aliens too. So when uh, Tahuti and the flood in Atlantis destroyed, he returned, but he talks about returning and where his ship is and everything, according to his book. And Eric Casey talks about that too. And the Akashic, not the Akashic, the Library of Mente, his library. And researching the book, the language they have found in the pyramids, they call it the unknown language because at least what I read about is Sumerian. It's a combination of Sumerian and hieroglyphics,
Mm.
and the two shouldn't have been together. And but in that, it actually spells Tahuti, and that is in the pyramids that they have found. So aliens. I think one of my latest things they told me to collect scrolls, and I think that, and they said ancient scrolls to keep them away from the government, the evil
Mm.
government. And
Yeah, I've heard something similar to that. Even with all the LiDAR scans that they're doing, like over the pyramids and everything that they're finding underneath, there is an aspect of hiding it so it doesn't fall into the wrong hands,
right,
this information. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they actually said, if they get in the hands of the government, they won't falsify because they won't understand it, but they'll say they do.
Hmm.
And I think it comes clear back to the Anunnakis and the Atlanteans, which has kind of been an epiphany just recently, because with everything that's going on, if the worldwide government is going on right now, which seems like it could be, um, then you've probably read too that the pyramids, when Tuti finished the pyramids, he put a crystal on top of the apex of the Great Pyramid. And that was to signal to the cosmos so they could return when it was necessary. And if the Dark Brotherhood is here, we're definitely seeing some evil things going on. And that means they will be returning. The children of light will be returning. So that would mean aliens coming back. I don't, all I know is Tahuti is real to me.
Hmm.
And the stuff that written in the Emerald Tablets seem to be coming true. And in my book, I've quoted similarities that have happened. Um, I can digress a little bit maybe, but the weapon that they used in Venezuela, it's been over at least a year or two. They told me to remember the drumming code, which meant nothing to me. But on January 6th, when all that happened at the Capitol, they told me about finding two bombs. Michael did. And they found two bombs, but Michael said there'd be no cleanup. They didn't blow up. But they showed me another weapon, which I prefer not to tell you where they showed me. But it was a pulsating weapon, sort of like a gun, but no bullets. It just pulsated. When the drumming started in Minneapolis with the protesters, it woke up the meditation again. And so I asked a friend if he knew anything about it because he was into ancient civilizations. And he said there was an ancient weapon that sounded like what I was talking about. And had I seen the Venezuelan weapon they were talking about that they used? I hadn't, so I researched it. And it was a pulsating sonic weapon they used. The soldiers said they bled from their mouths, or from their ears, their mouth, and their eye, not their eyes, but anyway, they were bleeding. But it felt like they were being hit with multiple bullets from inside. So then I went back to Emerald Tablets, and Tahuti says in there, when he walked into Egypt the first time, or Ken, I think it's pronounced,
Hmm.
barbarians came to him. And when they did, he raised his staff, and a pulsating ray come from his staff, and they were frozen like statues. Whether it's the same weapon, I don't know, but that would put it back to ancient times. And that's what happened in Venezuela. Something with sonic or microwave. We know, I mean, if you research, you know we have these weapons. It's the first time that I know of it being used. And I was told about that when the insurrection happened on January 6th. But it also mirrors the Havana syndrome too. And that supposedly is a sonic weapon also that uses nothing but vibrations. So that's one thing that I think is came true. Um, Messages just keep coming and coming. So,
A lot of channels are talking about different things that are coming into fruition. They're talking about the split, of course. They're talking about a time when when the beings do come back, and that was flagged to be after Iran uh, and I believe it was Israel started sending weapons back and forth. Um, you've received other messages too. Would you want to share some of those? You do share some in your book. Would you like to share some that maybe aren't in the book?
um, one of them, the January 6th came through an automatic writing, but it seems like one thing that's happening, at least how I'm perceiving it, is that countries that we always considered our enemies, we seem to be getting closer to them over alienating the allies. And in my book, you'll see a circle, and the circle shows China, Russia, North Korea, Israel, and an island that I haven't identified yet, and our President Trump. And they seem to be aligning somehow. I don't know if it's just a tariff thing, but just in September of last year, for the first time, Russia, China, and North Korea were on the same stage for a military parade. Trump wasn't there and Israel wasn't there. But now that we've got the peace board, the board of peace
Hmm.
that he's starting, Russia, the three haven't came on board, but Israel has, and Trump is initiating it. But all the allies that we normally were our friends are not joining it. So it's almost like they are splitting our norms. I mean, the people that we've always been friends with, we have had disagreements with, but we work together. But now we're appear to be trying to ally with countries, which is good if we ally with all of them, but alienating our friends doesn't seem normal. Also, I mean, when they told me to um, see, we've talked about the weapon, but thought says when these weapons start and when the Dark Brotherhood does take effect, that they will return, and that's happening. I've seen a vortex. Granddaughter being an engineering student, that couldn't happen, Mama. But Thoth talks about a vortex too. Then the vortex, as happened before, where the Earth will have formed like a gyro. Now, whether he's talking about just the world changing and the Earth changing, like a lot of people are talking about, but this is a physical change. And I was shown that, which I don't understand, but it shows changes in our climate, but way below. Also satellites. They've showed me the word satellite, and we have, again, not knowing anything about this, our technology, but they said the satellites are giving false pulsations and vibrations affecting the Earth. And whether it happened this way, but during the election, internets went down, voting precincts stopped, communication stopped, there were bomb threats, all kinds of things that, in theory, I guess could happen with a satellite. And when they say a satellite fails, according to Michael and the light, they aren't failing. They're just programming different things. And Tudy alludes to that too. When cosmic forces somehow transmit false information, that the light will have to come back and fix it. So there's been a lot of talk about satellites communicating. And to me, that sounds crazy too. But I do know that, when the internet shut down, they told me my airport would be affected. Well, President Trump comes into that airport. Before. It was the last one to come back up. Another weird thing they told me was all the plane crashes are trying to point out that we are infants. That they're not crashing the planes, but we are infants in the technology, and the satellites could be affecting technology. I mean, even I think it sounds crazy like this, but I don't know where it comes from. I mean, I know where it comes from, but it's not like I'm going to my neighbor Joe and saying, hey, can you talk to me about satellites? It's just coming. And for instance, a spirit one time, I was helping a lady reach her husband. He had committed suicide. And as I'm studying, communicating to her, the light came through. And my head gave me I said, your husband planned the suicide with you and your contract. Do you remember that? And she said, I thought he did, but thank you. She was a commentator for NBC or CBS, I don't remember. But she quit her job and started a thing to help people with suicides and recognizing how to work through it. And her husband, had, according to the light, and her husband had planned this from the beginning. So, like I said, to me, it's still like when I talk to people, I oftentimes go, are you talking about me? When they say some of the stuff they say, I mean, I'm going to be 77. And it's only been 3 years I've been talking publicly about this.
Hmm.
So being trusted with all this, he better keep me around a long time. It seems like there's a lot more to talk.
Definitely. Um, and you get information from Tahuti. You get information from the council, who showed up in the robes and then turned into the orbs. You talk about Archangel Michael being one of your guides. You have a Native American indigenous man who showed up. And it's a wonderful story in your book about how he showed up and said that you came as an orb to their village, and which doesn't exist anymore. His people, they don't exist anymore, but he searched you out and
Yeah,
found
he
you.
he scared me so bad most of my life. I mean, we had linoleum uh, flooring. It was an old farmhouse built in 1837, and we didn't have central heat, so there was a retcher in my floor. And every night I would just lay there watching from the other bedroom that came into mine, because I would just hear that linoleum just creak, creak, and stop right by my bed. And then I would smell a really sweet smell. Had no idea what it was. I just knew there was a presence there. And so every night I'd wait for him to leave. And after my father's death, I went to my old bedroom and I just meditated, said, "Who are you? You scared me all of my life. I'm not scared of you, but tell me." And then he went through his whole story and how his people didn't exist anymore. I can't remember. I found the tribe, uh, but he told me his Native American name and stuff. He said, "Just call me John." And so it's easier to pronounce. And he still comes around. If I smell sage, I assume he's here. But he came to Florida with me. And it took me a while to, you know, because when I went back home, I'd already lived in Florida for a while and didn't really know who he was yet. But yeah, it's like I said, it's been an interesting life. And, you know, I never expected to teach special education, but there wasn't a job in the history field. And I loved it. I hopefully changed a lot of people's lives, kids' lives. I had to talk a lot to keep my administrator let me do some of the things we did, but like walking on sheets with our bare feet to teach sensation and colors and things, but we made a teepee by walking on a sheet with our bare feet. But it's just been like a learning experience. And I think it's still going on. We're still alive anyway. So,
That's wonderful that you ended up working with children. I've been having visions and dreams lately that about protecting the children, that it's about the children and, you
yeah,
know, keeping everything sound and peaceful for the children and bringing back that relationship with the earth and teaching them about the
right.
relationship with the earth. And they're born, a lot of children these days are born knowing too, but lots of information about being there for the children and saving the children.
Yeah, I haven't really had that, but with my granddaughters are all very diverse, like they should be. But one is starting to be an engineer, environmental engineer. One just graduated. She's going to be a teacher, working in teaching. The other one will graduate in 2 years or 1 year. And she's into nothing. I mean, she's probably the most opinionated one I have. But she, I taught her how to talk to some fish one day. She was bored and I was bored. And we're waiting for her sister at college. And I said, "Why don't you just talk to these fish?" And she's looking, "Talk to the fish, Mama? Really?" I'm like, "Yeah." And so I taught her breathing and said, "Now call the fish to you." And they did. They swam to her. I said, "Now tell them to go away and bring the color back you want." She was so amazed. And then she met a turtle on the way to the car that was on a hot payment. I said, tell him to get off the pavement. He's not safe there. Car run over him. First time I do it, the second time, turtle got up, walked onto the grass. And yet, I mean, it's just amazing. They've all found their angels. We've
That's
meditated and
cool.
found their angel. Um, People just, it's amazing that even when I taught disabled preschoolers, we were doing things that other classrooms were asking, why are you getting prisms? Why are you flying a kite? And I'm going, why not? I'm working on skills with them. And I had a really high rate of success. I was doing my doctoral study on that. But you have to think out of the box, or you're going to be stuck in the box, I guess.
Hmm. I
That's
never
all.
fit in the box.
Never.
I've
I've
never
never
fit in the
fit.
box. I'm
No.
like, where's home? I was always asking as a child, I feel like I don't belong here.
Well, that's I felt I was adopted most of my life because so many nobody in my family ever had ideas, that parallel mine is. I did find out after my first broadcast, a cousin watched it, and his mother, my mother's oldest sister, and he said, Mom talked about Tahuti. She said, you knew a lot about Tahuti. I said, I wish she would told me. I mean, she was my babysitter from preschool on up.
Wow.
And but I never heard her talk about. He said that his mother used to talk about Tahuti and that I knew Tahuti, but she's been gone a long time, long before I knew that. So I don't really know her connection to that either. But the threads just keep weaving, and it sounds
Incredible.
like you're doing a lot of weaving too.
Definitely. Are your guides saying anything about this shift that we're going through right now?
Basically, to stay focused on the one point that we are one. And if we don't unite, we will divide forever. And messages, I'm guessing yours may do the same thing. It's like a jigsaw puzzle sometimes. It's like they tell you something and you're going, it doesn't make any sense. What are you talking about? And then eventually, well, like the sonic weapon, that's how many years ago? January 6th is at least 5 years ago, right? I
Hmm.
don't know. And all of a sudden, drumming watching protesters drumming after the death of the first woman. And then that triggers one thing, which triggers me back to another thing, which triggers me to a friend. And then all the pieces just start going together. And the vortex, I mean, just where we came on air, I was checking something on my phone, and a thing popped up out of vortex, uh, somewhere in Atlanta, Antarctica, I think, but I'm not sure, talking about a vortex that they're sensing of the warming of the climates. And
Hmm.
again, the satellites told me that the satellites are doing something with our climate and our weather. Look at the changes. I mean, Florida has had freezing weather for 2 weeks off and on.
Yeah, I
My
noticed
husband
that,
raises
and
orchids, so but
yeah, I
remote,
was yeah, I
yeah,
was listening to somebody the other day. Idaho, I think it was, or Utah, usually has like 38 inches of snow, and it has point 0.1
yeah,
so far this year. They're having
yeah,
to make snow. Same here in Washington State, no snow.
yeah,
Yeah, or very little, I should say. Yeah, and
yeah.
then and it's warm. We have like spring flowers coming up already.
Yeah. My friend told me that I think it's Ohio has. She told me she had flowers coming up,
Hmm.
and there's no rhyme or reason. I mean, the sharks in the Gulf, in fact, it is the Gulf of Mexico too.
Hmm.
um, the sharks are attacking more and more, and I mean, why? Except something changing in the water, because with the exception of maybe the bull shark, I go shark tooth hunting, um, and they don't want to be around you. I mean, my granddaughter who I talk was studying to be an engineer. She likes to swim with sharks. She scares the heck out of me. She dives in this black water with to find a 8 or 10 foot shark. And I said, this well, he's trained. He only feeds a certain times a day. I'm going, I hope he knows that my granddaughter's in the water. But
That's a no. That'd be a no for me.
well, she's waiting to go on a cage dive, and I'm going, don't tell me till you're back on the boat. So things are changing so fast. I mean, the Gulf was warm um, at least a month later than most people get in the water. I mean, regular people that live here. Um, Tourists are all year round. But um, like, I don't the Goliath grouper, they just caught one right offshore. We just had Atlantic whales off the coast here, a mother and a calf. They're not even supposed to be here. I mean, it's like their radar's messed up too.
Hmm. Yeah.
So something, my guides as far as saying something definite, except about the vortex, but that's a natural occurrence. That's not what you were talking about. But something they said is going on internally in the earth. I hope they're wrong. We don't need that kind of shift. It's bad enough dealing with the meditation shifts and things, but they have showed me something. And hopefully it's not as dramatic as, well, they didn't say it was dramatic. They said we would deal with it. So I don't know what it means, a weather change or what,
Hmm.
but
Yeah, I've been picking up on something too. I've gotten a few messages that I'm not entirely like super excited about that, could point to something, but you're just not sure, I hear there's going to be a death of something, but they don't tell me what that is. I'm hearing, I did a channel the other night. I do a first Wednesday evening loved gift of a journey circle online on Zoom. And we were talking about the earth and doing a journey to the lower world to receive a message from the earth. And I clearly received, I could like see her body, and parts of her body were sick. And that, and I actually physically felt like I was going to get sick. Parts of her like felt like her joints needed to crack. I felt like I needed to stretch. And I heard that she needs to relieve stress. What that means, I don't know. And a lot of channelers are saying, they're seeing, something as far as like earthquakes and stuff like that happening, but we don't know. And we shall see, right? What's going
well,
to happen.
like my second daughter, we at times she'd go to classes with me long before this started coming together, and the person leading the class knew she was a healer, and I'm sitting between them, and I feel electric shocks going through me, like going across the carpet shocks. So I get done, and her name was Penny, and I said, you have to have permission to use anybody's energy. And she said, I hurt so bad, I'm sorry. And my daughter, who at that time had already became impaired, she had no clue that, she's just a giving person.
Hmm.
She probably has, I'm quite sure she has had encounters with aliens, um, the stuff that she's been telling me.
Wow. Yeah, lots of sensitives do.
But, she was gifted till 5, and then somehow both my daughters got sick at 5 for no apparent reason. And, but the second one's had the 2 past lives. And well, when I didn't have to research to serve them out, but the
Hmm.
other one was with Native Americans. And everything she told me, whether she was actually there, I don't know. But she, at that time, was already impaired. I know she'd be learning history. It was about the conquistadors. So what she described was a unique housing and some Indians. And so I researched it. Everything matched. So whether she was there or not, sure sounds like she was.
Yeah.
So that's something I do too. I research I guess it's a teacher in me. I don't know. but I research things when I see them, especially past lives, to see if numbers match and sceneries match. And that's how I validate to myself. So,
Yeah, as I write in my book, that is how psychics know when everybody's like thinking they're crazy, or if they start to doubt themselves and think that they're crazy, that's one thing that a psychic can do is validate the
I,
information that they're getting. Plus, any information that you get
yeah,
is never, ever, ever to do any harm to yourself, the planet, or anyone else. So that's a key right now, right there, that it's coming from higher light. Yeah.
yeah, it's like my granddaughter and I talk quite a bit about it. It's like a sci-fi movie
Hmm.
that you're in a movie and sometimes it won't make any sense until something pops in and, oh yeah, I saw that sometime.
Yep.
So it's definitely a journey.
It is. Is there anything that we haven't shared that you would like to share with our audience before we wrap up?
I guess when you think about being in the light, it's not don't have to pack a big bag or anything, and that's in my book. It's you have to just remember that, and it's crazy that I don't love everybody in the sense of wanting to run out and hug them and stuff, but don't judge people. Do what you can to help them if you can, and most of all, keep in touch with yourself, which is really hard for me and my family with adult handicapped children, um, being almost 77 and seeing things that people still aren't seeing. Just try not to doubt yourself and take care of yourself because it's hard to do when you're getting all these messages sometimes. Your other life doesn't stop when the other messages are coming. So take care of yourself.
Mm, beautiful. And what is a jewel of wisdom that you would like to leave our audience with today?
Like I said, you have to look at a glass of water. It's half full. And you have to remember it can be half empty or it can be half full. If you look at the life that's half full, then you can keep filling it up. If it's empty, you can't go do anything with it. If you spill it, pick it up, fill it back again. You have to keep renourishing life, the people around you, because your contract, you came back here, and this is a heck of a life to live sometimes. But you can always find one glimmer somewhere if you look hard enough. And it's hard to find sometimes. So that's my jewel. Look for the glimmer.
I love that. And it's true. In this contract, these lives that we sign up for aren't always easy, but that's how we grow. And yeah,
Well,
I think that's
like I
great.
think I said in the book, the light didn't choose weak people. He chose you and you chose him to come back to guide. And it doesn't mean you're on a platform, you've got a halo. I'm sure mine is full of charge sometimes. But shine it up and start over. So I guess that's it.
Awesome. I love that. Linda, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks for
And
joining me.
if anyone does want to contact, they can just look up Linda McCollum Delong and just tell me where they saw me. So I have some reference because I don't friend everybody. I read and ask them why they're friending me, and then from there we go. So
Nice.
I'm
Yeah,
sure
on Facebook. Yeah, you're Linda McCollum Delong on
right.
Facebook. Yeah, and just reach out and let her know that where you heard her. And yeah, awesome.
Good.
And buy your book, Walking Between Two Worlds, The Secret Teachings of Tahuti and the Light. And you can find that on Amazon, everybody. Linda, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me on Raise the Vibe with Liz. It's really been awesome to have a conversation and loved your book.
Well, it's great meeting you. Thank you, Liz. Bye bye.
And Thank you. Bye. And thank you everyone for joining us again. I'm Liz Peterson and this is Raise the Vibe with Liz. And you can find me everywhere at Raise the Vibe with Liz and my website at raisethevibewithliz.com. And don't forget to get my new book on Amazon and iBooks. Thanks everybody. Have a good day. Bye now.